Today the road brings us to Nevada City, Montana. We are spending tonight in a real ghost town, in a cabin that was built in the late 1800s that miners stayed in. This was a big mining area back in the 1800s and well into the 1900s. This town is just like stepping back in history. We are going to explore around, maybe go on some tours and show you just what is in a real ghost town. And we'll get started right after this station identification. Here is where we're staying tonight. This is an original miner's cabin, but it has been remodeled. And let's see. Well, here is our cabin for tonight. It is a vintage, genuine miner's cabin. This is where the miners stayed back in the late 1800s, and of course it's been remodeled. In Nevada City, Montana, 1970, with Dustin Hoffman, Little Big Man. There are dozens of them. I'm just going to pick out a few. Unsolved Mysteries, Plumber's Gold, 1989. Nobody's Girls, 1993. A Moment of Peace, 2002. Back Roads of Montana, Alder Gulch to Plentywood in 2003. History Channel Ghost Story Series, 2009. The Ballad of Lefty Brown, 2017. Jack Slade, 2015. There are dozens of TV shows and movies that have been filmed here. South by Northwest, 1979. Pony Express Rider, 1975. On this spot that George Ives was hanged. They said that every rooftop in town, people were standing on the rooftops so they could see over the crowd, so they could watch the hanging of George Ives that supposedly killed the young Dutchman. This particular building has been preserved. It was the Mullen Organ Works. It looks like the exact building, but this log house came from Waterburton Ranch near Cameron. This building is original to this site. It was built in 1863 as a miner's cabin. Explosive growth of Alder Gulch mining communities. It was in those early days of development that Alicide Richard arrived in Nevada City and lived in this cabin. Born December the 10th, 1841 in Ontario, Canada, Alicide came to Montana somewhere between 1863 and 1865, seeking to work the area's rich gold deposits. In 1864, miner Frank Finney and his bride Mary moved into this cabin on this property that had been constructed the previous year. The cabin forms the core of the present house. Newlyweds soon added the front room, decorating the logs and ceiling with muslin stretched smooth to mimic plastered walls. Then applying wallpaper over muslin, a clapboard siding covered the rough exterior logs in front, and by the end of the 1860s, the house had a second story, some gingerbread trim, and a picket fence. A well provided water for laundry, and a nearby spring supplied their drinking water. The Finneys used a fireplace until they could afford a wood stove. Then they blocked the chimney. The couple's 4 children, 3 whom survived to adulthood, were born in this house. Of course, behind this big fine home is an outhouse, and you can see it's a is a 2-seater, so you can sit right next to your loved one and do your business. A lot of outhouses were built over pits. This particular outhouse had drawers that you would pull out. This is the Seidman house. This building originally stood in Junction City, a mile and a half north of here, where it was built in 1873 as the fine in-town residence of rancher, gold miner, and legislator Oscar Seidman. Later the Junction Hotel and then a stable. It was moved by Bovies to Old Town back to Nevada City. Weekly washings did not appear until the 19th century. Prior to that, washing occurred every few months. This was because of the difficulty of the washing process and because of the fragile nature of some of the early garment materials, silks, brocades, velvets. Presumably, there were no merit in trying to keep clean the coarser garments of the working world. Those shackles out where they would keep the prisoners here in the jailhouse. Not bars, I guess those would be temporary prisoners, and here are the sheriff's office. Reported to be Montana's oldest standing public school, this tiny cabin served Twin Bridges from 1867 to 1873. The teacher made $40 a month, and the classroom resources were sparse. One teacher said it's to have a used potato as a globe, peeling areas to represent oceans, and leaving continents unpeeled. The students shared in cleaning, fetching water, firewood, etc. This tiny school with its teachers is typical of many rural schools, even in the late 1940s. This is an old miner's cabin with his mining stuff. There's a panning for gold. This was the Iron Rod, Montana, was a stage stop along the Jefferson River known as Upper Silver Star, and later as Ragtown. It's about 7 miles north of Twin Bridges. Early prospectors would do a rough assay themselves by washing a pan of crushed rock to estimate its gold content. At an assay office, miners could often have their raw gold analyzed with its weight and value assessed, or test a ore sample by fire assay. The multi-step fire assay process extracts gold from the ore using heat, chemicals, and other reducing elements, and has been used for hundreds of years. Engine number 1. Typical of many barbershops of the era, regular customers had their own shaving mugs with their name and occupation on them sitting on the shelf. Once or twice a week, a townsman would come in for a shave, and the barber would mix the shaving soap with the man's personal mug. Some barbershops like this one also offered baths. A miner fresh in from the plain might first head to the barbershop for a shave and a bath. No self-respecting woman would ever set foot in a barbershop for fear of catching a glimpse of a man in a bath. Often the barbershop took on the atmosphere of a private men's club. Joseph Sullivan was one of Montana's most famous saddlers. His quality workmanship is legendary to this day. In 1882, he opened his saddlery in Fort Benton, Montana, in this building. The building dates to 1847 and was site of a saloon and the signing of an Indian treaty before Sullivan set up his shop. This end of Crichton Hall was modified by Hollywood for the movie Missouri Breaks, filmed here in 1975, and has appeared in many other movies, including 1,000 Pieces of Gold in 1989 and A Return to Lonesome Dove in 1993. It's amazing to me how well these buildings have been preserved. Lots of movies has been shot in this building. Actually, Return to Lonesome Dove was filmed in this very building that I'm sitting at right now at this card table. This bar back behind me. This is really cool. And hey, there's going to be more. Built in 1871 by E.S. Dubus, and it's penciled on the log here on the front porch from near Lauren, Montana. Was torn down for firewood, but it was rescued and put back together here in 1976. It was used for training families for the PBS TV series Frontier House. The Sun River Jail was built in 1880 and was likely a place for soldiers from Fort Shaw to sleep off the effects of a night on the town. Fort Shaw was a United States Army fort founded in June of the 1867 and located on the Sun River 24 miles east of Great Falls. Frank Finney, 1867 to 1874. Well, that is going to do it for our trip here to Nevada City, Montana. Once a thriving gold city, now a ghost town. Very fun to visit. I hope you've learned a lot here. I know I have. And if you've enjoyed this video, I want you to give me a big old thumbs up. Be sure to share this video with your family and friends. And if you hadn't subscribed yet, please do so to help the channel grow. But until next time, y'all have a good day.